Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our second Lunch and Learn session. We are pleased to have back Sam Trevathan and Abby and Erica with Kids Orchestra. You might remember them for those of you who participated in the January session on self-care. It was a very popular session, and we are so pleased to have them back. They are going to be kind of presenting on kind of a follow-up to the session they did. The bells were a very popular activity, Sam, and I'm sure they're looking for some good engagement. I will say this, when we met with our planning committee, self-care was the most popular and pressing topic. Self-care for staff. We had a great session yesterday with Dennis on developing resiliency, leadership. And today we're really looking for more engagements that really foster self-care for staff as well as program participants and their families. So I will turn it over to you, Sam, and looking forward to another fun-filled, engaging session.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning to everyone. Happy Friday. Happy almost end of the school year to everyone out there. If you're out of school now, hooray, you made it. I know we've got some students here with us today. So we are so happy to be connecting with you all this morning. We've got a lot of great stuff to share with you. During your lunch breaks, I realize that's probably why many of you have your screens off. Know when you feel comfortable to turn your screens back on. We would love to see your faces and connect with you. And I don't think any of us will be offended if we're watching you eat. So by all means, feel free to turn on whenever you are ready. We are going to get through a whole lot of stuff. Hopefully, we'll end up with a few minutes at the end for a little bit of chance to hear from you guys, connect, any questions, or just anything we want to talk about and rap about from the presentation. So I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint to start, just to kick us off here. I'm joined today with my two colleagues, Erica Ladd, one of our program managers with Kids Orchestra. Here's a little bit about her. She'll introduce herself once we turn it over to her. A little bit about Abby. You'll get to hear from her as well. And just a little bit about myself as well. And in case you don't know anything about Kids Orchestra, here is our mission. We are a nonprofit here in Baton Rouge. We are after school, and our mission is to build a community of creative, confident, and socially engaged students through music education. And our vision is to bring Louisiana together through music. So today's Lunch and Learn. This is what we will do our best to cover. It's all about connecting activities to you all to inspire some opportunity and create some space for conversation and activities around self-care within your programs, things that can be connected down to your staff for students and families. So we'll be covering some aspects of self-care, mental well-being. We'll talk about mindfulness and intentional listening, and there will be some musical connections along the way. And I will share, my internet is a little iffy. I've moved from my home office up to our office where internet is on. So if at any point things are a little, spotty, just know that we'll connect all of this information to you guys after the presentation if you miss out on something here. So we're going to start off with something fun and engaging right away. This is what we're calling Jumpstart Sharing with DJ of the Day. So we are going to start by creating our own DJ name. There's a formula here. We're going to start with DJ plus a style of music, a noun from the room you are in, and then your name or your nickname. So I'm going to move to the next slide, and there's going to be some word banks just to help you out in case you're experiencing that Friday lull and you're not quite sure, what's a common noun I can work with or some styles of music I can think about. So here's to help you out. The DJ name I've selected today, and when I get a moment, I'm going to change my name on Zoom to this, is DJ Funky Truck Sam. And I have two other DJs here with me today. Abby, would you mind sharing your DJ name?
Of course. My name is DJ Zydeco Dog Mama.
Erica, would you mind sharing your DJ name?
Yes, and I am DJ Soul Mike Ladd.
Beautiful. Once you all have created your DJ name, when you have an opportunity, please put it in the chat. We'd love to see the fun, hilarious, creative things that you guys come up with out there. Be creative, share, and we're excited to see what we have from that. So the next portion of the activity, the idea is that through a DJ of the day, you are creating a space that is intentional for a student or maybe a teacher, maybe the family to share a piece of music or a musical selection that is important to them, something that they connect with, something that is important to them outside of your program, something they listen to at home, something that may be important to their culture, something that is just fun, exciting, and they are eager to share. Any chance that a person is given in a space to share music or art or anything like that, that they appreciate and that they value, is always a really impactful moment. There's not always a space created for that. And oftentimes as educators and after-school professionals, leaders, administrators, teachers, we are on the clock all of the time. And we're so focused about delivering the content that we need to get through. And there's not always the space to hear back from our audiences, hear back from the people, the young people that we're trying to work with. So the idea here is that this is a space to create for them to share maybe some music that they think is important to them. And we're going to skip through some of the moderating steps that I think would be common for us as after-school professionals that would be important for us to go over, appropriate language. We're not going to show music videos that have certain things that may not be appropriate. We're skimming over all of that today. The idea is to give you a surface look at how this can be used and get a little bit of sharing going. So this can be used at the front end of your after-school program, maybe during a transition from school to after school. Immediately have some music playing and give the kids a chance to talk, share with one another. So we have a couple musical examples that we are going to share with you after I share just a little bit from this slide. The DJ shares the title of the selected piece of music or song, why they decided to share it, and something they want the audience to listen for. That could be something specific like maybe the instruments, maybe the form, the style, the beat, the rhythm, maybe the melody, the harmony. It doesn't even have to be something so music specific. It can just be their favorite part, or maybe a sound effect, or they just share it because they love it and they were raised with it and they're not sure why they like it, but they just really dig it. So DJ Soul Mike Ladd and DJ Zydeco Dog Mama have actually picked two selections that they're going to share with us. So we're going to start with DJ Soul Mike Ladd, Miss Erica. Can you share a little bit about your musical selection with us, why you chose it, what you want us to listen for, and how does it connect to self-care for you?
Yes, I'll certainly do that. So I chose Closer to My Dreams. This is a song that is a part of my morning routine. It's very motivational, almost a self-affirmation for myself. It's great morning music because of the melody. It's not too harsh of a melody for early mornings. So the main reason I listen to this song in the mornings is for motivation to get up, get out there, and continue to make a difference in the lives of our children.
So here is Closer to My Dreams.
Closer to my dreams. Coming over. I'm getting high. Closer to my dreams. I'm getting higher and higher. Feel it in my sleep.
Thank you, DJ Soul Mike Ladd, very much. And everyone that's here today, notice that I'm not putting the videos up on the screen. The whole idea is to focus on the listening. If you put the YouTube video up, they're going to focus on the screen. So DJ Zydeco Dog Mama, what you got for us? Passing the aux cord to you.
I shared a live performance by Clifton Chenier, and the reason I chose this is because it makes me happy. And I like to choose to listen to things that make me happy. It makes me think of everything I love about Louisiana, and it makes me move. And what I want you to listen for, my favorite things of the song, I'm super, super cool person and I love the accordion. So you can listen for the accordion and you can also listen for the beat and the rhythm. It might make you happy and want to dance as well. This is Clifton Chenier.
Beautiful. And before I hit play here, everyone that's here, if you have listened to any music in the last 24 hours, and if you have a musical example that you would like to share with the audience, and we can turn it over to you as the DJ, please type in the chat that you would like to share. We're looking for someone that would be interested in connecting. So here is DJ Zydeco Dog Mama's Clifton Chenier.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, DJ Zydeco Dog Mama and DJ Soul Mike Ladd. And this is DJ Funky Truck Sam signing off. Do we have anyone else that maybe would like to just share a song or a musical selection with us? I put in the chat, any takers out there? Anyone brave and want to share a musical selection, why they like it, what they want us to listen for? I can pull anything up on YouTube pretty quickly here. And that's okay if we don't. So the other part that is so important to this activity that we want to share with you all is it's not just creating a space for the students' families, maybe your teachers, to share who they are, what they connect with in and outside of your program, but it's also an opportunity for music to be a central item within your programs, and it's very accessible. YouTube is free, we all know this. There's so many easy ways to bring music into your programs with little to no materials and little planning and time and effort. And what we want to stress as music educators, what we focus on at Kids Orchestra, is it's really, really important to bring music and such a great variety of music from all over the world, from different cultures, from the vast amount of cultures we have here in Louisiana. There is so much great music here in our communities that we should celebrate. And I will challenge every person in this room today, tap into what is in our cultures here in Louisiana. We have bluegrass, we have Zydeco, we have Second Line, we have everything associated with all of the festival seasons, soul, R&B, rap, bounce. I mean, I feel like I can go on and on about what is in Louisiana. So that is my challenge to you, is remember to share as much music as you can. And it's as easy as giving the aux cord to a student, a family, a teacher for just 5 to 10 minutes to share a piece of music, talk about why they like it, and connect it up to what they may think is self-care. And we're glossing over what self-care is right now, assuming you have some understanding there, but this is how this activity works. So we're actually going to now shift over to DJ Soul Mike Ladd. She's going to share a little bit about self-care so she can set up the rest of our discussions there. So Miss Erica Ladd.
Thanks, Sam. Good. Is it still morning? Yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be speaking to you all today, sharing self-care ideas and an activity that can go along with it, that can work in the after-school settings for us ourselves, and hopefully to trickle down into the homes and our community as well. So next slide, please. I would like to first give a sturdy definition of what self-care is. Self-care, according to the latest World Health Organization's 1998 definition, is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health and to prevent and deal with illness. So this slide is showing us a few examples of what self-care actually is. It's hygiene in terms of general cleanliness, nutrition, which is the type of quality and the food that we eat, not necessarily going out for expensive dinners that are not necessarily in our budget. Lifestyle, which has to do with sporting and leisure events, especially outdoor activities. Uh, Not actually thinking about the lifestyle of the rich and famous. I hope I'm not dating myself with that, but more in the sense of lifestyle of getting out there and getting active. So now let's take a look at some examples of what it is not, what self-care is not, which was pretty revealing, it was a revelation to me and what my idea of what self-care actually is. It is not wine time. It is not gossip time. It is not binge watching TV on your favorite shows all weekend. Self-care is not scrolling through social media for hours. It's not shopping because, we love to say, hey, I deserve it. I worked hard this weekend. That is not this week. That is not self-care. It is not turning off the alarm and sleeping all day. And self-care is not thinking, oh, this is too hard. I'm going to cut myself some slack and pass on this one. So these are some examples of what it is and what it is not. All righty, let's take a look at what our next slide has to show us. 12, 13, 14. Having emotional intelligence and solid mental well-being leads to good self-care. Here are competencies of emotional learning. Do these competencies look familiar to anybody? If they do, can you give me a hand in your chat box or a thumbs up maybe? I see that it looks familiar to Sam and to some other folk as well. Yes, emotional intelligence is very reflective of the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or as we know as CASEL's cell or social and emotional competencies. In most cases, when adults are referring to social and emotional learning, it is called emotional intelligence. They are the same. Cell and emotional intelligence are basically the same. And here are the 5 competencies here: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Individuals can only begin the journey of good self-care once these skills have been at least recognized or mastered. Self-care has been divided into 7 domains according to the International Self-Care Foundation. Can we get the next slide, please, to look at those 7 domains? They are health literacy. This includes obtaining, processing, and understanding basic health information and services needed to make appropriate decisions. We need to be aware of what it is our doctors or who it is that we see to help us take care of ourselves know what they're talking about. Mental well-being, and this includes knowing things about yourself, your body mass index, know what your cholesterol level and blood pressure is. It's also engaging in health screenings as well. Physical activity that's appropriate, practicing physical activities such as walking, cycling, participating in sports at a desirable frequency. Healthy eating includes having a nutritious, stable diet with appropriate calorie take. Then we have risk avoidance or mitigation. This includes quitting tobacco, limiting alcohol use. I know we're coming out of a pandemic. I could say the first time in my lifetime, So there were a lot of bad habits that I know that I picked up, and this is something to be very conscious of. Getting vaccinated at this point is something that can help you to avoid risk as well. Practicing safe sex using sunscreen. It can go from one extreme or another to our lives, through our lives. Good hygiene, this includes washing your hands, washing your food, just taking care to make sure that you are as healthy and as clean as possible. Rational and responsible use of products. This includes being aware of the dangers of medications and using the things that we are given in a proper way. So those are the 7 domains. Next slide, please. Um, just to kind of simplify things, I created a formula here to let everybody know that there is no self-care without emotional intelligence and solid mental well-being. Learning to embrace emotional intelligence is the recognition of yours and others' emotions, plus learning to embrace solid mental well being, which is the mental state of finding comfort in your life, health, happiness. And once these things are accomplished, they equal up to good self care, which is taking the actions needed to establish and maintain good mental and physical health. Self care has everything to do with emotional intelligence, mental and physical health, and overall well being. So, here are some tips. I'm a person that likes to just kind of get down to the good part. And here are some ideas of what we can do to provide self care, a good self care for us, for ourselves. I am going to pull up because I can't really read it there. Alrighty. Self care tips include practicing positive self talk and personal affirmations. And this can be to speaking to yourselves out loud, mentally. The song that I shared, DJ Soul Mike Ladd, shared Closer to My Dreams. Just reminding yourselves of how great you are and staying positive always helps. Meditate and reflect. Take some time out. This is reflective of mindfulness, which Ms. Abby, which DJ Zydeco Dog Mama will be sharing with us later on. Rest, relaxation, renew, and refresh. All of these things are part of self-care. Staying positive and being optimistic, very important. Engage in constructive activities. Get out there, deal with people who are doing the same things that you're doing, who have positive responses to you and what you have going on in your life. Find something fun to do. Choose to be happy. That's very important also. Exercise, self-discipline, planning, preparation, and personal management. Being centered, that's also an idea for mindfulness. Be in the present and avoid stress and worry. Organize and declutter. Uh, Being home during this year was a great opportunity to make your living space better, a better space that works for you. It doesn't necessarily mean, just all new furniture, but if that works for you, everybody's situation is different. And then finally, celebrate your successes and personal achievements in a healthy manner. So those are a few tips for maintaining self-care. Next slide, please. So a quick summary of what self-care is. Remember that we can only begin to practice good self-care when we've learned to manage our emotions and realize mental well-being. Next slide. All righty, so 2 hour activity. I just chose a writing activity. It's what I'm familiar with, and it always works. In my experience as a classroom teacher and someone who has worked in the after school setting as well. So, writing poetry at all levels is always appropriate and can be made fun with the addition of illustrations. An arts and crafts activity of creating a frame for your poem can extend the learning as well. After a self-care lesson discussion, writing a few lines about what was learned is a great reflection activity. You could even put on some music that the DJ of the day may have chosen. So I'd like to share with you a poem that I came up with and that I'm going to ask you all to come up with a poem that is reflective of self-care, so, and what we've talked about today. So I will care for me now all the time, but not just with a glass of wine, nor food, for I know that is not the mood. Self-discipline and planning, it's not too demanding. Now I have the understanding. I plan to rest, relax, and renew. I can do this without buying a new shoe. So, from my research and what I put into this presentation, I was able to come up with a poem that really is a goal for me and kind of shows what I learned about self care. And I want you all to know that students are never too young to set goals. Adults are never too old to set new ones. There's a place in school day classrooms, after school programs, and communities for poetry. I think hearing and having the visual of Amanda Goman, hearing her work on Inauguration Day, has sparked a popular resurgence in the literary genre. Teachers and after school staff can refer to this writing activity as a poem. It can be a rap, a freestyle writing. The self care topic is also a great opportunity to encourage students to journal. You can have digital journals if you have the material, or written journals, which I think I always advocate for writing and practicing. They can journal their thoughts about their journey through or to improve self care. Self care discussions can take place during parental involvement events in the after school setting. This will almost guarantee that the topic will make it home. Those activities can then be used creatively to help students set and achieve goals for better self care. It might even help them recognize and understand that staying up till 6 a.m. in front of the game, wearing headsets, sometimes screaming, waking up the house, is taking a toll on their overall self care. So the activity that I would like for us to that I would like to share with you all is to write a poem. So using what you've learned about emotional intelligence, well-being, and self-care, create a poem. You may open a Google Doc or a Word doc if that's convenient for you, or if you have pen and paper, um, you can get creative. Your poem can be 2 to 3 stanzas, focusing on new goals and taking better care of yourself. Uh, Hopefully, we have about 7 minutes to do so, and then we can have 1 or 2 volunteers to share out if you all would like. Uh, Sam, would you mind going back to slide, where are our tips? That was 17, I think. Yes, slide 17. And this can help you all with creating your poem. So happy writing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to share with us. Um, let's see, I'm gonna mute. I guess it would have been nice to have, we were right for about, yes, about 5 to 7 minutes. I see that in the chat box, thank you. If there's any way that maybe we can have some writing music I know that's kind of a last minute thought and request. Thank you. But that always makes things a whole lot more interesting and motivating. And I'm going to mute. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here and play one of my favorite songs. It's a song that has such a great message in the lyric. The melody's great, but the lyric is something that I wanted to call attention to. In a time like this in the world where there's division, it's important to keep perspective on how beautiful this celestial ball in the middle of space called Earth is. And that's what soul is all about. I loved working on soul because it gave perspective to the bigger vision of life, the macro vision. Above all our problems is purpose. And as this ball spins, life goes on. I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed days and the dark sacred nights. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
have about 3 more minutes.
Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, and also other faces of all the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll know much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself,
Alrighty, we are going to keep it moving. Thank you, Sam, aka DJ Honky Trunk. Thank you so much for that wonderful selection of music and for sharing. Did you say Ron Baptiste?
John Baptiste, and that's
John.
from the new Pixar movie. If you haven't seen Soul, John Baptiste did a lot of the songwriting and arranging.
Awesome. And I take it he's a Louisiana native.
He must be.
Maybe, yeah, that Baptiste maybe.
Yes.
Could be. Okay. Anyways, how'd you guys do? Did anybody get a complete poem out and would like to share either in chat or out loud? For sure, I would love to hear something. I shared mine. No takers?
I can share mine if you'd like, Erica.
All righty. Thank you, Team Abby. You're muted. Just unmute Abby.
It must be my first day on Zoom or something. We haven't done this for a year, have we? So let me try this again.
Okay.
To be the best me I can be, I must work consciously to be healthy. I'll calm my thoughts and move my body, feed my soul and gain control. I'll be thankful, thoughtful, and kind. Self-care for me will start with taking care of my mind.
That was excellent. Thank you so much. Right. Anybody else? All righty. For the sake of time, I hope that this is an activity. Writing is not all that innovative, but it is a part of our lives. So I hope you all can take this activity and use it in your classrooms with your after-school students, after-school staff. Thank you so much. And I will now turn things back over to Sam.
Thank you so much, Erica. Great work there, and thank you for sharing everything. So now we're actually going to turn it right over to Abby South, also known as DJ Zydeco Dog Mama. Abby, please take it away.
Thanks, y'all. So I am a former music teacher and a current PhD student with research interests in psychology. I'm also a person who is fighting off a cold, so I really hope I don't cough and sneeze at you through this. I'm going to do my best. Today, I'm going to talk to you about mindfulness and intentional listening as valuable self-care tools that can improve our mental health. That can improve our mental health and connections with the world around us. So, what exactly is mindfulness? The American Psychological Association defines it as attention and acceptance. Other definitions I've heard are awareness and compassion, awareness without judgment, or focus and peace. Core components of mindfulness include being fully present in the current moment, a heightened sense of sensory awareness, and non-judgment. It's important to note that mindfulness isn't just some new age, hippy-dippy, feel-good thing. In fact, it's so effective at improving mental health and reducing stress-related issues that there's an entire branch of therapy called MBSR that psychologists have developed. It's mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy. I'll give you a little bit of information about that type of therapy. The American Psychological Association has listed these evidence-based claims about this type of therapy on their website and links to respective research studies if you're interested in reading a little bit more. Sam's going to go ahead and click in some information for you. You can scan about all of the very powerful benefits that we know scientific data has shown us practicing mindfulness can provide. You might not be able to see it, so it's things like reducing stress and anxiety, off-task behavior and pain and fatigue, increasing and improving executive function, recovery time, emotion regulation, immune function, enhancing morality, intuition, and fear modulation, increasing a positive affect, information processing speed, and it's a super valuable tool to use in the treatment of addiction. There's also lots of data out there that practicing mindfulness can help folks with behavioral disorders, ADHD, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. It truly is a powerful tool to help us be healthy and live healthier lives. And keep in mind that practicing mindfulness is totally free. Right now, sitting in the chair you're sitting in, you have everything you need to practice it by yourself or with your staff or with your students. Practicing mindfulness is self-care. So let's give you some tools you can use to practice it. One of the most common and popular ways to practice mindfulness is through mindful meditation. In this type of meditation, you find something to listen to focus on, like bells, nature sounds, your breath, and you work to focus solely on those sounds. Distractions will inevitably happen, and when they do, you acknowledge them, you pass no judgment on them, and you work to return your focus back to the sound. In our previous presentation in January with LaCal in 21st Century, I think Andrew referenced this at the beginning, we took the participants through a bell meditation demonstration, so we're not going to do that today. But there's tons of information about mindful meditation available online, books you can read, and even apps you can share. And if anybody in here is on the fence and thinking, yeah, I don't know if that'll work with my students, it's not for me, personal testimonial. I taught for 16 years. In year 16, I started doing mindful meditation with my students every day, and I have firsthand witnessed what a calming effect it has on students, how much it improves their focus and their attention span and the overall mood in the room. It was a life-changing event for me. Practicing non-judgment outside of meditation is another way to incorporate mindfulness into our lives. Take a second right now. I want you to think about your morning so far from when you first woke up. Was your first thought a positive or a negative one? Have you had a snap judgment about something on the news or one of your kids or coworkers, maybe something on social media or even in this presentation? And is there something you harshly judged yourself about today? Practicing mindfulness involves being intentional about reducing those judgments, working to acknowledge things we've experienced that frustrate or upset us without embracing judgment or giving energy to the negativity. Instead, just like when we meditate, we work on acknowledging those judgments and returning our focus back to a peaceful mental state. Setting a daily intention to judge less can be life-altering for you and your students, and it's an instant mood booster. Try for yourself for the rest of the day today. Every time you feel a negative judgment coming into your mind, acknowledge it, shoo it away, and return back to a peaceful mental state. Practicing mindful meditation is a great tool to practice non-judgment throughout the rest of your life. And it can give students and adults alike the tools they need to eliminate judgment from their daily lives. Single tasking. Oh my gosh, what a concept. Americans love efficiency, and we praise multitasking like it's the end-all be-all. But if you search through peer-reviewed scientific journals, you will find ample studies with negative outcomes associated with multitasking, and evidence that shows that humans are not terribly good at being aware of how poorly we perform when we multitask. Multitasking by nature divides our attention. And so we aren't always consciously aware that we're reaching our red line or our maximum ability of dual focus until there's a tangible negative outcome staring at us, like anxiety, or poor performance or frustration. And sometimes we don't even realize that these feelings we are experiencing are a direct result of having attempted to multitask. Practicing mindfulness involves single tasking to reduce stress, increase awareness, and improve positive outcomes. Think about how much we encourage our students to multitask, how much we ask them to multitask. We could instead create situations and experiences for our students that allow them to single task, that allow them to focus on one thing and truly be in the present moment with one thing. Mindfulness involves delayed and informed decision making. I found this really interesting. In a Harvard Review business piece, the executive chairman of Ford Motor Company admitted that daily meditation helped him to make better decisions. And studies have repeatedly shown that participants who take a moment to do breathing exercise before answering assessment questions, when they do breathing exercises, they're less likely to repeat previous mistakes. They have lower stress levels and they score higher on the assessment. Teaching our students to take time to stop and breathe deeply before making a decision or answering questions can help them have better outcomes at school and in decision making in life. Instead of rushing them through exercises or playing games that reward those who finished first, we can instead practice breathing before decision making, provide opportunities to reward being thoughtful, not being quick, and reward compassion and thoroughness. We can also include time dedicated to meditation or deep breathing within our after-school programs. Technology breaks. This is a really, really big one. We are so married to technology, and it has its benefits. It brought us here today. It's important. But research has found that simply having a computer or a cell phone in the room with you doesn't have to be on, just within your eyesight or where you're aware of its presence. It depletes your cognitive capacity and increases cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone. To practice mindfulness and be fully present, a break from tech is needed. And our students need our help getting breaks from technology. They use computers and screens all day. And then they go home and they're on their cell phones or playing video games. A really large part of practicing mindfulness involves sensory exploration. We experience the world through our senses. We use them to learn, to understand, to find pleasure, to avoid danger. Sensory exploration is tied to mental well-being. If you ask anyone who has recovered from COVID but has not yet regained their sense of taste or smell, they will share a certain sadness that accompanies the loss of those senses. Mental health experts use sensory exploration and MBSR therapy to assist the regulation of physiological and emotional arousal. Sensory exercises have been highlighted as non-invasive, self-directed, and empowering interventions that can support mental health care. Long story short, providing sensory-based activities like music or art or gardening or cooking for your students and families is beneficial in many ways, not the least of which is improving mental well-being. So let's do a simple, free sensory exploration exercise right now. So whatever you're doing, try to not be looking at your phone, try to not be distracted by anything, focus in on what I'm saying. We're going to start with sight. I want you to look around the room and become aware of your environment. Try to pick out things that you don't usually notice. The paint on the wall, the ceiling, the arrangement of the furniture. Is there something in your space that's unexpectedly interesting or beautiful? Now I want you to bring your attention to the texture of your clothing or the smooth surface of the table your computer's on. Maybe your skin, a pen or a pencil. Notice the shape of something and how it feels in your hand. Close your eyes. Notice the sounds around you. Listen for things in the background that you don't normally pay attention to. It could be birds or voices or an appliance humming, maybe the sounds the overhead lights make. Maybe there's a sound you've tuned out up until this point that might actually be really soothing. And if it's just quiet, enjoy the quiet and try to eliminate any judgments that creep in. Now I want you to hone in on the scents that surround you, whether they be pleasant or unpleasant. Maybe there's a plant, some perfume. If you're eating your food, that old adage of stopping to smell the roses comes to mind here. And if there's no smells, think of your favorite thing to eat and try to imagine what that smells like when it's cooking. And finally, taste. Perhaps a bite of your lunch, a sip of your drink, chewing gum, a mint, or just the current taste in your mouth. And to bring it all together, what did the item you're tasting look like? How did it feel in your hand and in your mouth? What sounds did it make as you opened it or moved it towards your lips? Did it make a sound when you chewed it or swallowed it? Does it have an aroma? What do all of these senses you were experiencing make you think about? Research indicates that this type of sensory involvement in our eating, it's called mindful eating. It can help you feel fuller, more satisfied, calmer after a meal, and perhaps lead to better eating habits. And this activity in general helps us to slow down, appreciate the things around us, be in the moment, and more aware of ourselves and others. Also, when you do sensory activities like this, kids get so excited to share the things that they discovered throughout the process. I bet adults would too. Tuning into all of our senses is important, but there's one sense that we have less control over than all the others, and it has power over us. We can close our eyes and plug our noses if we don't want to see or smell. We can choose not to taste or touch, but a typically functioning human is subjected to hearing whatever is around them at any given time. Our sense of hearing and our ability to listen intentionally to that which we must hear is important for our mental health. Listening plays a role in learning to take care of ourselves, and developing our emotional intelligence is necessary for good communication, and it's a key part of building relationships. Listening for understanding is required to develop empathy or experience personal growth, but we as humans and as a modern society are really very bad at listening. We're going to show you a brief video about listening. We do want to warn you, excuse me, that at about the 3-minute, 42-second mark, there may be an image that some of you might find upsetting, but that's kind of the point of the video. Sam, we can go ahead and play it.
We are losing our listening. We spend roughly 60% of our communication time listening, but we're not very good at it. We retain just 25% of what we hear. Now, not you, not this talk, but that is generally true. Let's define listening as making meaning from sound. It's a mental process, and it's a process of extraction. We use some pretty cool techniques to do this. One of them is pattern recognition. So in a cocktail party like this, if I say, David, Sarah, pay attention, some of you just sat up. We recognize patterns to distinguish noise from signal, and especially our name. Differencing is another technique we use. If I left this pink noise on for more than a couple of minutes, you would literally cease to hear it. We listen to differences, we discount sounds that remain the same. And then there is a whole range of filters. These filters take us from all sound down to what we pay attention to. Most people are entirely unconscious of these filters, but they actually create our reality in a way because they tell us what we're paying attention to right now. I'll give you one example of that. Intention is very important in sound, in listening. When I married my wife, I promised her that I would listen to her every day as if for the first time. Now that's something I fall short of on a daily basis. But it's a great intention to have in a relationship. But that's not all. Sound places us in space and in time. If you close your eyes right now in this room, you're aware of the size of the room from the reverberation and the bouncing of the sound off the surfaces. And you're aware of how many people are around you because of the micro noises you're receiving. And sound places us in time as well, because sound always has time embedded in it. In fact, I would suggest that our listening is the main way that we experience the flow of time from past to future. So, sonority is time and meaning, a great quote. I said at the beginning, we're losing our listening. Why did I say that? Well, there are a lot of reasons for this. First of all, we invented ways of recording. First writing, then audio recording, and now video recording as well. The premium on accurate and careful listening has simply disappeared. Secondly, the world is now so noisy, with this cacophony going on visually and auditorily, it's just hard to listen. It's tiring to listen. Many people take refuge in headphones, but they turn big public spaces like this, shared soundscapes, into millions of tiny little personal sound bubbles. In this scenario, nobody's listening to anybody. We're becoming impatient. We don't want oratory anymore, we want sound bites. And the art of conversation is being replaced, dangerously, I think, by personal broadcasting. I don't know how much listening there is in this conversation, which is sadly very common, especially in the UK. We're becoming desensitized. Our media have to scream at us with these kind of headlines in order to get our attention. And that means it's harder for us to pay attention to the quiet, the subtle, the understated. This is a serious problem that we're losing our listening. This is not trivial, because listening is our access to understanding. Conscious listening always creates understanding, and only without conscious listening can these things happen. A world where we don't listen to each other at all is a very scary place indeed.
It's a pretty powerful video. Mr. Treasure goes on to offer ways to practice intentional listening in order to improve communication, understanding, and overall mental health. And we're going to present some of his suggestions along with some others offered through educational psychology right now. The first is silence. We've previously talked about meditation. If you're uncomfortable with meditation, if your students are, if you can't find time, settle for silence. If this isn't possible, settle for quiet. Our brain and auditory systems need time to clear and refresh, just like our computer systems do, in order to function properly. Our students need us to provide them technology-free quiet time in their lives. They don't really get it very many other places. Tuning into soundscapes. We can't always have silence or quiet. We have to learn to coexist with the noise that's around us. But instead of always tuning it out or putting the headphones on, we can practice tuning in. This is an activity you can do in your own life or with your staff and students. Sam's going to play some soundscapes for you from various locations. You're going to listen for a few seconds, and we want you to try to guess what the location is. We want you to see how many different channels or layers of sounds you can hear, and then drop your thoughts about it in the chat box. Here we go. You can start talking or typing what you hear, the layers you hear, and what you think the location is in the chat box. Okay, good. So we can go ahead and stop that one, Sam. That's a pretty easy one, right? It was the beach. And the layers of sound, there was waves, there was children, there were adults, there were birds, and there was the humming of what sounds like maybe a jet ski. So there were 5 layers of sound in that soundscape. The next one might be a little bit trickier to figure out. We want to do the same thing. Where do you think this recording was made, and what are the layers of sound that you hear? Any guesses? Good. You can go ahead and turn that one off. That one's a little bit different. That one's a little bit different from the first one. It's not quite as clear cut what it is. It was actually a recording in a classroom while they were in group work. The heels that you hear, that's the teacher walking around. There was some writing on the board. There were voices. And I think a door opening or closing. And did any of you pick up on the fact that it was a different language? It wasn't English that was being spoken in the classroom? It's kind of tricky. I asked that question, but I can't actually see you, so I have no idea if anybody's nodding. This last one is my absolutely favorite soundscape. This is the last exercise for this particular activity, so go ahead and share it. That's my favorite one. I find that music so relaxing. Does anybody have an idea? Someone said restaurant. Good. So that was actually a coffee house. When we did this activity together, Erica said, that sounds like Starbucks when we worked on it. So yes, it was a coffee house, and there were multiple layers of sound in that one. There was the music, which was the most obvious. There was the voices, there was rain, and then there was coffee in the background. We're always surrounded, yes, plates, and coffee being made, yes. We're always surrounded by a cacophony of sounds, and we can practice our listening by trying to tune into the layers of sound around us. If you go into a restaurant, for anyone who's comfortable with doing that now and as things get more normal, if you go into a restaurant, it's really interesting to sit there and listen to the layers of sound. You might feel like you're eavesdropping and maybe being a little bit rude, but it's really, really interesting and a good way to practice listening. And watching everybody's thoughts come up in the chat box, it brings to mind the idea that we each listen from a different perspective and hear things differently. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. You can do this activity with your students by searching on YouTube. You can go outside and use the environment that you're in. I found this really wonderful activity from the National Park Service that's Soundscape Bingo that you can play with your students. I just put it in the chat box, and it looks really fun. And if it doesn't work for your space, it's a good idea. You could create your own bingo card to fit your space to use with your students. So we can tune sounds out. We can tune into the sound. We can also learn to savor the sound. Developing an auditory attitude of gratitude, if you will, can help to foster a more positive mental state. We can intentionally listen to alarm clocks, coffee being made, the laundry being done, the trash being collected, children who are playing way too loudly. And instead of being frustrated or irritated by these sounds, we can acknowledge the miracle of waking up, the joy of drinking coffee, the luxury of clean clothes and a functioning municipality that collects our trash, or happy children who maybe they're being really loud, but more importantly, they're really happy. The choice is ours. Intentional listening means choosing to interpret and make meaning of the sounds that we're subjected to. The 5 sense activity or soundscape activity, accompanied with a written reflection about how the things we're sensing impacts our lives, can really help students and adults alike to become more aware of the environment around them. It helps us appreciate all the environment has to offer and helps us work to create a positive affect. And I spoke earlier about teaching kids to set a daily intention of being less judgmental. We can also teach them to set the intention of savoring sounds, or smells, or sights, or feelings. Anything we sense, we can learn to teach ourselves to savor it. Perhaps the most important part of intentional listening, however, is the idea of listening from, not listening for. It's choosing to listen from a certain position when you're in conversation. I'm going to explain this a little bit more and let my friend Mr. Treasure help us out again. On this slide, on the left-hand side, we can go to the next slide, Sam. There we go. On the left-hand side, these are the filters Mr. Treasure shared that we each bring to every interaction we have in our day, with our students, with other peers, in traffic. Our culture, our language, our set of values and beliefs, our situational or momentary attitude, our expectations, history, our intentions that we've set are ours alone. The people we share the world with do not share identical filters, and because of this, that means that listening and successful communication don't actually happen naturally or inherently. We have to practice. To help improve communication, we must be fully present, intentionally choosing what type of listener we want to be in any conversation. The right box offers some of the general positions from which we can choose to listen. This idea of active listening is a psychotherapeutic technique in which we listen closely. We restate whatever the other person has said in conversation in order to fully understand the content of the message and make sure they know we're listening. Passive listening is attentive listening without intruding upon what's being said in any way. When we listen actively, we restate the problem, focus on understanding, and ask questions to help solve it. In passive listening, we just listen. We allow someone to vent. Reductive listening is when we listen for only what is relevant versus expansive, which is working to pay attention to everything the speaker is saying, understanding the full picture. Reductive is the type of listening we use when we want to gain very specific information and are not concerned, with the big picture. Perhaps like, is this going to be on the test? That's reductive listening. Expansive listening is not efficient like reductive listening is. Expansive listening tells the whole story. In critical listening, we evaluate and analyze. We use this type of listening to learn, to question, to understand, to make sure we know what the truth is. Versus empathetic listening, which is where we try to understand the feelings of the speaker. The most important part is what they're feeling when they're telling us the information they're telling us. We want to understand their emotions and try to experience their emotions with them. I want you to take a moment to think about a conversation you've had recently where you left a little frustrated and you felt like you would have preferred or benefited from conversation partners who listened from a passive, expansive, or empathetic platform. Or maybe a conversation where you could have. We struggle to listen from these positions because we struggle to single task. We struggle to focus. We struggle to be fully present in conversation and to listen selflessly. It takes awareness and practice to do this. Practicing mindfulness helps us be better communicators. There are many other listening positions. These are just the big general categories, and teaching our students to understand the difference between listening for and listening from is vitally important in helping them grow in empathy. It helps to strengthen their emotional intelligence and improve their relationship skills. And these are all parts of self-care and positive mental well-being. An activity for listening positions could include scripts of conversations and discussions about what listening position would be most important. Opportunities to practice conversations from a specific listening position. If Erica and Sam were to practice this, we could present Sam with something to say and tell Erica she's not allowed to ask any questions. She just needs to, the whole time. And then they can discuss at the end. A scripted demonstration of inappropriate listening and the negative outcome it can create would be really impactful. Teaching students to practice non-judgment in discussion and conversation is important, but they need the practice with eliminating judgment in their lives and other places in order to eliminate it from their communication. And goodness, we hope our students are better at being non-judgmental than we are. Listening positions are valuable tools for teachers and parents as they communicate with children and young adults who really the only thing they want, all of the students we work with, the only thing they want is to be seen, truly heard, and understood. We've put together a list of links to free online resources for you to use for yourself or with your staff or your students if you're interested in learning more about mindfulness-based stress reduction, or intentional listening activities. Some could be really good, not just for after school program, but in the car ride with your own families or at the supper table. We hope you find them really, really beneficial and useful. Sam's going to, I think, drop them in the chat box right now. Is that what's happening, Sam? Our list of activities.
I think we had one more we were going to add and then share after.
Got it. Okay, so you'll get that after this, a sheet of online resources that touch base on everything we've presented so far. I am done, and I am going to pass it over to DJ Funky Truck.
Thank you, Abby. You covered a lot of ground there. I hope you were able to soak in some of that stuff during your lunch break. Lots of great stuff. We're going to share not just that list of resources that she just referenced, but our slide deck, as well as a couple other activities that we are referencing here. So I'm going to be tying things up with something that connects to Abby and then something that brings us full circle, because we're at the end of our time here, surprisingly. So something else from Mr. Treasure, who is one of many experts on listening. And there are so many schools of thought, approaches, ideas, and acronyms out there that are wonderful. But this is one directly from Mr. Treasure that we thought we should just continue and share to maybe motivate you to continue to connect with him, because we thought his stuff was very impactful. So Rasa here, and I went ahead and put everything up on the screen for you just to know that it is an acronym, but the word rasa, many of you might connect with to begin with. It is a Sanskrit word that means essence, the taste, the flavor, the juice. It's kind of one of those indescribable flavors, almost like umami in cooking if you are one of those foodies. But rasa is also something connected to tabula rasa, which many of us probably learned as an educational theory somewhere along the way, that we are blank slates. And I think Mr. Treasure's pretty clever in connecting with rasa, knowing that there's development within this word, and it is a very lovely abstract word that means so much to us in our world. But he uses it as a very practical tool here. And rasa stands for receive, appreciate, summarize, and ask. And it connects directly to what Abby just left off with, is how to intentionally listen to someone. Abby talked about how we listen to the world around us, how we connect to it, how we bring ourselves into it, how we disconnect ourselves from it, and all of those different efforts and opportunities with the world around us. But we haven't talked really about the individual in front of us or our audience. So the R stands for receive, letting the speaker know that you are there, you are present, and you are receiving everything that they have to say, whether that's in the classroom, conversationally, within the context of a teacher to a student, maybe student to student, maybe family members, or your best friend or your spouse and or partner. Knowing that you need to be present, have eye contact, body language. Nothing else is in your hands. We all know that this device is always close by, and we are not good listeners often because this is here and we're multitasking, as Abby referenced, and we're trying to talk to other people while we're trying to talk to an individual in front of us or pay attention to an individual. Your undivided attention is there. The next is appreciate. Mr. Treasure, I think he very cleverly calls us the oil, the lubricant, the stuff that lets the delivery, the speaker, know that we are there and we are present. These are those intermittent vocal responses of the listener that lets the speaker know we are there. The yes, okay, I understand, interesting, oh, yeah, okay, yes, I'm there. The affirmations. It's also physical body language, like nodding, smiling, mirroring in posture. Mirroring is really interesting, especially in adults, that it's something we've been doing for a long time. We use our bodies a lot when someone is talking to us to let them know we are actually present in there. S is for summarize. What is understood from the person that's talking to you? It is also the agreement. Mr. Treasure talks about the word so, which is a summary connection for him. It's what closes doors and says, okay, you said all this stuff to me, but now what do I do with it? What's next? It's the agreement. Therefore. So that could definitely translate to you all as teachers, administrators, people that are connecting down to the families and students. So what do we do with all this stuff we just shared with you today? Here's what's next. And the last part is ask. And this is how we participate as the audience, the listeners, as we're hearing who is in front of us. It's the questions that we ask ongoing. Can you give me a little bit more information? I don't understand this part. Can you share a bit more? It's requests. I need more detail there. I need less detail. And Mr. Treasurer emphasizes the importance of open-ended questions, something that doesn't close us out on just yes and no, but more so how to get the person to talk and share more, and it's all about the connection. So this is not so much an activity, but more so an emphasis on how you can talk about communication and a tool that maybe you can adopt to emphasize the importance of conversation, connection, and how you listen. Very simple. Acronyms work well if delivered correctly. RASA is very simple, elegant, and that's why we really appreciated what it was. And I'm going to end with some quotes here about listening from a couple of people here. I think many of you know who these folks are. Scott Peck says, "It is impossible to truly listen to another human being and do anything else at the same time." Brene Brown, be as passionate about listening as you care about wanting to be heard. Michelle Obama, "When somebody walks up to me, I don't look around, I don't look beyond them, I look them in the eye, and I take in their story." And lastly, with the gift of listening comes the gift of healing. And we thought with that, healing connects, of course, to self-care. And that is such an important message right now, to listen to the people around you, to your staff, to your students, to their families. If you listen to them, it's part of our healing as we come out of this last year and a half of the pandemic and all of the obstacles along with that we've encountered, and so on. Listening to people is so important, and RASA is a very practical starting point to emphasize that point to young people and families. So the last part of our presentation is a vision board. I think many of you, as soon as I threw this up here, you immediately probably went back in your past experiences as a student, maybe as a teacher, maybe even as an after-school professional. You've used a vision board. I think we don't really need to talk about so much what a vision board is. We all know it's a collection of images, words that represent things we want to accomplish, things in life we want to learn about, we want to be. But right now we're talking about a digital vision board, which I don't know about you guys, very new and a different thing for me. So we're going to tap into a digital vision board with our last few moments here, as well as having our Q&A maybe happening at the same time. So I am going to drop a link in the chat here to Google Slides, which I think most people will have access to. If you have been an active teacher or after-school professional in the last year and a half, I think many people have turned to Google and all of its tools, resources, and platforms. Google Slides has been awesome, and that will bring you into our collective self-care vision board. What we'd like to do is just have everyone tap into this resource. There's some quick instructions here. Add your name and organization to the top right-hand corner. You'll see that there's a little bit of space to do that. And within Google Slides, you can easily show your classes, your teachers, families, that there's a way to explore self-care through a visual representation of how they want to tap into the concept of self-care. So anything that we talked about today, you can simply click on Tools, go to Explore. It pulls up an awesome little search bar here for you. And we're just going to type in physical activity. And you click on Images instead of the web, and it pulls up all sorts of stuff over here to the side. And you can simply click and drag, and we have some examples down here. But what I want to emphasize with you all is that there's very little instruction that's needed here to jump in on this. Because it's a digital vision board, it lives on. You can share, people can collaborate. It's not a big physical thing that you have to take home, and parents aren't going to be frustrated with it. And it can just live on forever. And after school professionals, staff, and admin, if you guys are smart, you'll look for trending topics that can also lead to programming efforts. If you see everyone wants more physical activity, you know you need to bring more physical activity into your space. So if you want to take a look at ours, they are here. I did one. Erica did one, and so did Abby. We would encourage you to add down at the bottom. That way you can see other people that are here with us today. And because we're down to our last 7 minutes, while you might be looking at these Google Slides and the link there, we want to open it up to Q&A. And I think Andrew is back with us now. So Andrew, do you want to jump in? Or maybe he said, let me wrap up by myself. So I don't know if Andrew's still here, but anyone
Sam?
have any questions?
I'm here, Sam. I just wanted to stress real quickly that today's session is recorded, and it will be on the conference website as well as LaCal's YouTube channel. And I encourage everyone to, Sam, if you want to put your email address in the chat box so people can reach out to you if they have any questions about today's activities, and encourage everyone to follow up with LaCal regarding these issues and any other pressing questions that they might have.
Absolutely. Well, that I think concludes where we are at today. So thank you all for joining us. We'll hang out for a few more minutes if anyone wants to chime in and talk to us and say hello or ask any questions. We are here. So Erica, Abby, you guys have anything else you want to say?
I would just like to add, Sam, I really appreciate the listening portion that Abby did, and it's something very important. I think Abby drove home a great point, which is, a lot of times youth just want to express themselves, just want to be heard. And, we did a project in Monroe City Schools called the Emoji Project, in which we would put these 10 emojis on the walls, and the students would walk in and let the staff know why what emoji they feel. And so naturally what we did was we trained staff members to, when you see the sad emoji, when you see the angry emoji, just walk up and ask them, why are you angry? Why are you sad? And it really, you saw this relief, on the student's face, that they were finally able to talk with someone about them. I would say the flip side of that is make sure that your program knows your mental health counselor and has that contact in place, because what did happen is we started having students confide in them some very serious situations. One student shared that she's very sad because she's homeless, and that is something obviously that we are not trained to do. We are not trained counselors, but it is very important to have that relationship, have that listening component, but also have the mental health professional contact in place, so that should it arise down that level that you need a serious issue addressed, that you can pass it on to the trained professionals.
Absolutely. I think Erica and Abby and I will all second that. We are not trained mental health professionals. We are not music therapists. We know where to look for resources. And if you need help with resources where you are, you need to tap into people. I think LaCal and the people that are here today are the people you should talk to. If you don't know where to start, reach out to everyone that is here. We all are in it together and would definitely connect you to the right people. So Andrew, thank you for saying that. Erica, I believe you had something you wanted to share.
No, just to let everyone know that how the importance of self-care, and I hope you would be able to practice some of the things that we talked about at home with yourselves in your daily walk, and with your staff, after school staff, and students and families.
The slides link is now in the chat. Someone let me know I didn't get it to the full chat. I think it went to an individual, so I apologize about that, but it should be in the everyone group chat now. That should take you to an open Google Slides where you have editing capability and can add your vision board that connects back to everything that we shared today. Abby, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we close out?
Just best of luck to you all. We have such important people in this Zoom meeting. You work with children, your jobs are so incredibly important, and we appreciate the work you do, and we wish you well in taking care of them and in taking care of yourself.
Can I just say a quick point? I don't know who said it, but it resonates with me, and I appreciate it so much that listening is part of healing. And so even if you don't have answers for people, if you give them the care and the deep concern to just listen without that multitasking, it means so much. So I just appreciate whoever said that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Precious. That was a quote that we pulled. So we 100% agree with you, and that's why we ended with it. We thought listening was so important to where we are at, and we want to emphasize that. So thank you for helping us drive that point home. Well, everyone, thank you so much. All the best to you. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday. I hope you all are excited and charged up about self-care like we are. Bring it creatively into your spaces in the upcoming year. I think you all will see the benefits from it, and your students and families will also benefit and be excited about it. Let us know if you need our help. We are here. Stay in touch. Take care out there. Signing off from DJ Funky Truck, Sam. Take care.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Thank you.
And shout out to LaCal and Andrew for having us. I should say that again and again and again. Use Andrew, use LaCal. They're amazing. They are here for all of us. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.